The Council, it's June 18th. Welcome everybody. If you'll join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd like to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome. We need to start with a roll call. Ms. Harris, will you help us with that?
Councilmember Lynn, please put that one.
Thank you. We've got an agenda before us. Is there any changes to that agenda that we need to consider before we move on? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Mr. Welling with a motion.
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Perk seconding. Any discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? We have an agenda. We've got the council minutes for June 4th. Any questions, comments, concerns? If not, we'll acknowledge those as they've been prepared and go to the work session of June 11th. Same thing there. Any questions or comments about those minutes? If not, we will acknowledge those as well. We'll go on to the bills. Any questions or concerns there?
This seemed like a short list.
Yeah, but it's big.
But it's big, yeah.
Yeah, it is. But it is a short list. Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lynch, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Welling seconding. Discussion. There's no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That takes care of the bills. We've got the revenue and expenditure report for April. Questions? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Mr. Perks.
I'll second it.
Mr. Welling seconding. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That approves that report. Thank you. Council comments. Mr. Lynch, sir.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Mr. Perks.
Nothing I can remember, sir.
That's easy. I could say the same thing. That's excellent. Mr. Welling.
I can remember stuff, but I don't. But I don't want to. I don't have anything tonight, Your Honor.
Sellers.
I just hope everybody's gardens didn't freeze. Planted them last week and freeze this week, so it's going to be 90 this weekend, so enjoy our Wyoming weather.
Welcome to Wyoming. Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Hageman.
Just an announcement for all of us equestrians out there. The Pony Express is coming through town this Saturday. They are looking for volunteers to, it is an unfortunate time on the east to west for us because it falls at 1 a.m. in the morning when they come through, but they need people to open gates and help mark trails, and anybody that's out and about at 1 a.m. in the morning. There's a route on the website. Christine Hayduct is the one who is the point of contact for this leg. They start out in Missouri and go all the way to Sacramento. They are hauling butt at, they have 15 minutes to do 2 miles, and so you still need a couple riders if you want to, if you have a horse, unlike mine, who would absolutely rebel at cantering or loping for 2 miles straight at 24 years of age. If you have one, and so would I, by the way, if you have one and want to participate in this historical recreation of one of the most vital parts of our American history, and what a great thing to show our kids. I don't know why we don't have this in downtown Evanston, coming up Lincoln Highway and right through Main Street, because we teach it in the 4th grade as well. You know, the Pony Express was a vital part of our nation in developing it, and so we're so fortunate to have it come right through our town. So if you are interested, you can either get in touch with me or with Christine, and we will be more than happy to assign you a gate.
Excellent, thank you.
Might get more people out if it wasn't at 1 in the morning.
Next year, it's supposed to be the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Coming west, it will.
They'd probably have it downtown if that was the route, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and we should next year.
But
You guys aren't going to be up at 1, opening
they try and
gates?
stay on the historic route instead of coming down Main Street of Evanston, so.
I might be up at 1, but it'll only be for a few minutes.
They're zipping by.
Checking the
They're
frost.
zipping by. They got it. You can do it.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I think that excellent. The Pony Express is a cool thing that we have the opportunity to have that history. I agree completely. We'll go on to our public hearings and special orders. We have a couple of public hearings there. They're both relative to the budget, looks like. Mr. Harris, you're going to be our hearing officer, is that correct?
That is correct,
Please
Mr.
go
Mayor.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mark Harris. I'm the Evanston City Attorney. The purpose of the first hearing is for the City Council to hear and receive public input, comments concerning or regarding an adjustment of the fiscal year budget for the City of Evanston for the year ending June 30, 2024. Notice of this hearing has been published in a newspaper of local circulation as required by law. Anyone present who wishes to speak to the council regarding the proposed budget adjustment for 2024 should approach the podium, state your name and mailing address, and then present your comments or concerns. No one will be cross-examined by anyone, but those who approach the podium may be asked questions by members of the council. The council will first hear from City Treasurer Trudy Lim, who will provide the basic overview and explanation of the proposed budget adjustment for 2024. Thereafter, the council will hear from members of the public. Ms. Lim, would you please state your name and title and provide an overview of the changes for 2024?
Trudy Lim, City Treasurer. The first item on the amendment we need to actually amend. Instead of putting money in the cemetery operating expenses, it's actually money going just to their fund, to their cash fund. Because they have losses quite often, they do not have a whole lot of cash, but they have not overspent their operating budget. So that's just a correction we need to make on the resolution.
Okay.
The golf fund, we should have put in some money for the golf bunker, some sand in the golf bunkers this last year, and it didn't get put in. It was around $65,000, and so we went ahead and we spent that money, so we need to amend that. Then the next item is the water main looping for the high school. We obviously will not spend that whole amount this year, but because work has begun, we want to put it in this year's budget, and then we probably will carry over that same amount to next year's budget. So, questions?
Any questions for the
I don't think I
treasurer?
have any questions on that. I think I know.
Is there any member of the public who would wish to comment on the proposed budget adjustment for 2024? There are none?
Okay.
Any questions from council?
I think I'm-
Right? The hearing on the proposed modification will be closed. Mr. Mayor, the next public hearing is a public hearing to receive hear and receive public input and comments or concerns regarding the adoption of the budget for the fiscal year 2025 by the City of Evanston. Notice of this hearing has been published in a newspaper of local circulation as required by law. Anyone present who wishes to speak to the council regarding the proposed budget for 2025 fiscal year should approach the podium, state your name and mailing address, and then present your comments or concerns. No one will be cross-examined, but all those who approach the podium may be asked questions by members of the council. The council will first hear from the city treasurer, Trudy Lim, who will provide a basic overview and explanation of the proposed budget for 2025. Thereafter, the council will hear from members of the public. Ms. Lim, would you please state your name and title and provide an overview of the 2025 fiscal year budget?
Yes, Trudy Lim, City Treasurer. Mayor Williams, City Council members, and citizens of Evanston, tonight the governing body will vote on the proposed budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. The department administrators have submitted and council members have reviewed budget requests, and a notice of public hearing was published in the Uintah County Herald on Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. The summary of the overall mission of the budget is to ensure rules reflect accountability, improve communication, recognize importance of local businesses, and display proper management techniques. The City of Evanston budget is a guide of estimated revenues and planned expenditures. Employees are encouraged to provide services efficiently and economically, and expenditures are evaluated once actual revenue amounts are received. The budget is divided among funds: the general, water, wastewater, environmental services, and golf funds. Also, additional special funds, including cemetery, lodging tax, and economic development. General fund revenue comes from various taxes and fees. Sales tax is the primary source of income for the general fund. Fortunately, we've seen an increase in sales tax over the past year, which is most likely a reflection of increased costs in our current economy. We hope to continue to see these increases in the future and have cautiously budgeted with this in mind. There are a few minor increases to fees in planning and engineering and also in the police budget. Water, sewer, and garbage rates make up the revenue for the water, wastewater, and environmental services funds. Staff is proposing a 2% increase to the base rates in these funds. The Golf Fund previously made increases to their fees for the golfing season, and those are reflected in this budget as well. The City of Evanston continues to seek grant opportunities to fund necessary capital projects, as well as monitor reserves so repairs and projects can move forward. Many projects from last year will be carried forward with some new items to take place if funds are available. Some of these items include continued repairs on City View Drive, with a portion of those costs to be funded by the Urban Systems Grant. An upgrade to the City Master Plan. Grant money will help funding in this new plan. Repairs to buildings, including roofing for the Recreation Center and Roundhouse, and elevator upgrades for the Police Department and Recreation Center with reserved designated building funds. Police-related equipment will be offset from leftover ARPA funding that was designated for the Police Department. It also includes necessary purchases of police and other vehicles and other department equipment. We will continue work on the Twin Ridge transmission line, which is also partially grant funded. Water and wastewater systems and maintenance upgrades will also be done. There is also Roundhouse area improvements, and we do have grant funding for some of those if everything works out the way we hope it will. Personnel costs are a big part of our budget. Health insurance increased by 10% this year. The city contributes 91.8% of the insurance premiums, and the employees pay 8.2%. In lieu of a cost of living increase this year, the city has decided to contribute 100% of the specified percentages to the Wyoming Retirement Program. This is an increase of approximately 5% for all employees and will raise their take-home pay. Overall, the total budget is estimated to be $40,161,687, which is approximately 2.6% higher than last year. This includes all the funds, personnel, capital projects, etc. Of this amount, $3,664,809 is contingent on the receipt of grant funding. Additionally, projects and spending will be carefully evaluated throughout the year as revenues are received. The budget is a challenging task full of unpredictable determinations, and it would not be possible to pull this information together without the help of all the department heads and the input of the mayor and the city council. So I thank you all for your help in preparing the budget this year.
Are there any questions for the city treasurer?
I have.
Just thank you for all your hard work on this budget.
You're welcome.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council regarding the proposed budget for 2025? If so, would you please approach the podium, state your name and mailing address, and comments to the council?
Richard Askelson, 700 Palomino Drive, Bear River, Wyoming. I am approaching you again about the water tower. And I know you understand what's going on with the water tower. This water tower is not mine. It's not the historic preservation. It's a city water tower, once in a lifetime. It's taken me 3 years to get it donated to the city. Once it's up, it's yours. It's the community's. It's the history of the Union Pacific came through here in 1868. So I'd like you to consider, now that I know that CHIPO has contacted the city last Friday, to reconsider putting a big hunk of money to get it moved up here, which means we've got to put in the footings first, and then we've got to set up to get it moved from out on Wasatch up here. So I just reiterate what I've been asking for months.
Any questions from the council for Mr. Eskelson?
So I've heard a rumor, and this just might be a rumor, so that you've been able to put some more donations from more funds from...
I'm sorry.
My understanding is that you were able to, and it might be just a rumor, that that you were able to secure other donation funds too? Or?
Yeah, we've got people that once the city commits to this, that will probably be donating money and time and everything to get it moved. When that could happen, how it'll happen, something I found out working on the locomotive and over 3 years, and some other projects over the years that I've been here. You can have people interested in helping. When it comes down to it, something happens. They don't get involved, you know that. You can have 12 people on the Elk Foundation, and by the time the Elk Foundation's put on, there's 4. So there's no commitment, total commitment right now until we can see what the city can do to make this work. So.
Mr. Mayor?
I do. Mr. Eskelson, I know that in the last few weeks, I guess it has sounded to you, I'm sure, as if I'm anti-water tower. I am not.
I know.
I think that would be a great addition. I think it'd be a kind of a neat addition. I think it'd be a neat thing to have in our roundhouse area, and as part of the whole project. I agree with that completely, and quite honestly, I'd like to see down the road to see that water tower there. I will say that. As I've expressed previously in other meetings, we have a list of, well, we have limited funds, but we also have a list of priorities, and right now, as far as I'm concerned, and I guess other council members can speak for themselves relative to my priorities, but but my priority right now is the courtyard project, the TAP grant, the grant that you're talking about. There's still a few hoops to jump through to make sure that we can secure those funds, and quite honestly, I would like to see that project completed, as I mentioned in our work session, before any other budget funds or expenditures expended. The water tower, the locomotive, all those things are good projects, but from my perspective, the courtyard is the priority. We simply have to get that project done. And so, while it's not in the budget right now, I guess what I would say is, would your concerns be resolved somewhat if we would say that while it's not in the budget right now, we certainly have the ability at any time in the future, when things are moving forward appropriately for the courtyard, we could consider a budget amendment at literally any time, and if I'm thinking that's correct, is that not, to accomplish this task relative to the water tower. The reason I also say that is you gave us a list of costs, of approximate costs. And I think it would be beneficial for me and for the council members to kind of see a little greater breakdown of what those costs. For instance, you mentioned, I think there was on that list, if I remember right, there was $4,000 for engineering costs. Is that accurate?
That was a guesstimation, because we're still trying to get a hold of somebody to redo the plans on the footings, because we caught up from $100,000 worth of cement work down to almost $48,000, something like that.
But those are estimates only, and it might be beneficial for us to make an informed decision relative to a budget amendment if we saw some of those breakdowns or a little more firmer costs relative, because quite honestly, I think the costs that you portray in that paper that you gave us, I don't discredit any of that, but quite honestly, I think that is far lower than what the project is actually going to be. Now, that doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. What that means is, I think what I would like to see, and what members of the council might like to see, is a little firmer depiction of what those costs are going to be. Now, I don't know how to accomplish all of that, but maybe if you could provide with us, or provide to us, a copy of that, of an engineer's estimate, and all the other, kind of solidify some of those costs, so that because right now it feels like the number is an unknown, and I'm obviously confident that it's lower than it's going to be.
Right, and to get this day and age, the costs, up and down and everything, and the reason I got the cost estimate from $100,000 for the footings was because the contractor says, why don't we do it this way, and we don't have to do all this fancy cement work, because the tower full of water weighs 300 tons, and the tower alone weighs 22 to 24 tons, so we could go with this. So now we have to re-engineer from the blueprints we had 8 years ago. And so that's a rough estimate he could only give me, because cement's what, $240 and I talked to WAC staff, and WAC staff gave us a $12,000, $13,000 estimate to lift it up, bring it up Wasatch, and put it on the thing. So
if we were to consider, while we might not consider it tonight, if we were to consider at any time in the future, that might be a month, it might be whatever, I don't know what the time frame would be, but I will make you a commitment that we will revisit this issue, and if we need to consider a budget amendment relative to provide for these funds, would that resolve your concerns, sir?
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate that. I talked to Forsgren twice, and they're so busy they couldn't do it. So we've got another firm, Myers and Anderson, that we're supposed to be talking to this week. If I can get those plans, that 50,000 of the 80,000 may go down to half. But we have to get it engineered and approved by the city and whoever else, that tank will stand for the next 100+ years again. So I'll get more firm answers for you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just know, do we need an MOU for this project? I mean, we have a lot of projects going on, and Also, another question is, because of the cost, is this something we're going to get in trouble not bidding out?
Go ahead, please.
Those are my questions.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, that was going to be a question that I would ask Mr. Eskelson to clarify, and maybe I didn't hear correctly, but I thought, Mr. Eskelson, during one of our work sessions, you said that the water tower, I thought that you said the water tower was going to be given to Rink.
Okay. UP gave it to us back in the first year, and they would only give it to a nonprofit entity, which would be Rink. Okay? And our whole idea wasn't to put it on a piece of ground and say it belongs to us. Our thing was to get it for nothing, because at one time it was going to cost, years ago, UP wanted to charge us just like they want on the powerhouse. Well, in negotiating over the years, I got them to give it to us, but it has to go through Rink, nonprofit, and once we decide we can move it, then we get a hold of UP and say, okay, we're ready to move it. They give us 120 to 180 days to move it. And it doesn't matter if it's this year, next year, but with costs going up, I'm trying to get things done this year and be done with it and stuff. So once it goes to Rink, and then once we get it up here and it's set, we sign it off to the city. We make donation to the city, even though it could be your money paying for it. I'm learning as I go. So I've learned a lot, but that's the whole idea. The tower will become the city's once it's set up there.
So, Mr. Mayor, to answer Councilmember Welling's question directly, that's why I asked the question. If the water tower is Roundhouse Restoration, Inc.'s property, we will have to have some kind of an MOU or lease negotiated and drafted and approved by the council to move it and place it. Okay? And that's going to be required. If the water tower is immediately transferred to the ownership of the city, then the public bid statutes would kick in. And if we're over that $75,000 threshold, we're going to have to bid it. So there's a lot of thought to which way we go.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says Rink can't hold this, and then that kicks in, I think, an MOU that said, okay, the funding will be made available, A, B, C, D, and so forth. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eskelson. You answered.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Is there anyone else present who wishes to address the council regarding the proposed budget for 2025? There being none, the hearing on this matter will be closed. Just for everyone's information, a resolution considering modification of the 2023-2024 budget and the fiscal year June 30, 2025 budget will be considered by the council later on in the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you. We will go on to our consent agenda, and I'm told we need to separate those items. So I guess we can address the first one first, and that one, the first one is a street closure. And this, go ahead.
That one, I believe, Mr. Mayor, is left on the consent agenda. I believe we needed some discussion on the parade route.
On the next one. So we can move forward with this street closure permit. Is there a motion to approve this requested by Travis Wilson?
I'll second it. And
Mr. Welling, is that what I heard? Mr. Sellers?
He's a little quicker. How many years?
Mr. Sellers in the motion.
Good deal.
And you're seconding that, Mr. Perks?
yes.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you for
doing it.
for your fun neighborhood party. Our next is a street closure and parade route requests. Chief Ranish, you want to talk to us, it looks like.
Yes, sir. Mayor and members of the council, they were here to speak about it, and I had a chance to speak with them first, and they're agreeable to what we're requesting. Traditionally, the parade route's gone down Main Street. It's looped around Harrison, came to an end, and by the Uintah County Museum on Front Street. This year, with the traffic flow, we feel it's not going to work. They've requested a modification to start the library, come down Main Street, cross Harrison Drive, and continue on Main Street. And the parade would terminate somewhere around the post office. We figured we'd probably give them to the entry at the roundhouse, the first entry, in case they wanted to go that far. And they were very agreeable with that. And I've had a chance to speak to Public Works, City Engineering, and we all feel that'll work.
So we can move forward with that as it's been modified then?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Is everybody aware on the council, is everybody aware what the modification is?
I think it's giving
Probably
everything,
safer.
it's a smart thing to do.
Probably safer. So I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve the street closure and parade route request as it's been amended relayed by Chief Branish.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Mr. Welling with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sellers seconding.
It's the funnest parade we have.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Appreciate that. We will go on to unfinished business, and we'll start there with ordinance 2404. Mr. Harris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Ordinance 2404, an ordinance of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, amending Section 7-112B and 7-113, the Code of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, relating to stormwater runoff plan review and drainage fees of the City of Evanston, Wyoming Stormwater Runoff Control Ordinance, providing for setting of stormwater plan review and drainage fees by resolution adopted by the Evanston City Council. This is on third and final reading.
Thank you, sir. Has there been any changes at all to the wording of the document since we previously approved it all? Has there been any changes to the wording at all?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm still a little dazed from my ride 2 weeks ago.
Seatbelted in?
I do have my belt buckle with me, though.
Hey, all right. We're in good shape then.
Yeah, I've got the training wheels on tonight. No, Mr. Mayor, there have been no changes in
I
the.
looked through a little bit. I didn't see anything that stood out. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2404 on third reading.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Sellers.
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Mr. Perks seconding. Any discussion on the motion? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That is approved on third and final reading. Ordinance 2405. Mr. Harris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2405, an ordinance of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, amending Section 7-71C, the Code of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, relating to grading permit fees of the general requirements of the City of Evanston, Wyoming erosion control ordinance, providing for setting and grading permit fees by resolution adopted by the Evanston City Council. This is on third and final reading as well.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions on this before we move forward with it? I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2405 on third and final reading.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Welling. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lynch seconding?
Yep.
Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That is approved. On third and final reading. That's done. We'll go on to new business, and we'll start there with Resolution 2435. Mr. Harris, will you read that title for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 24-35 is a resolution of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, authorizing the execution of a mutual agreement between the Uintah County Conservation District and Evanston Tree Board for the Community Forestry Tree Care Improvement Project.
Go ahead. Come up and tell us what you want us to do here. If you'll introduce yourself, that would be great.
My name's Osana Giorgio. I joined the Evanston Tree Board about a year ago. Currently do a lot of work with trees, working for the Forest Service, and I previously, back east, worked on a urban forestry program and community forestry program. So I was really excited to join the tree board. And I came across this spring a community enhancement grant from UNT County Conservation District. It's a reimbursement grant, and one thing I've heard over and over in my year on the tree board is the survival rate of trees that are planted in Arbor Day plantings, et cetera, is not always ideal, right? And so for a long time, I've been thinking about ways that we could address this. And this grant gave us an opportunity to purchase approximately 2 years worth of water bags. So these water bags look like this, or they can look slightly different, but the idea being you can fill them once with 10 to 20, 25 gallons of water, and they slowly release that water into the soil around the tree, thus eliminating drought stress and to a certain extent time, right, spent watering, et cetera. And so the idea behind this grant was to provide free tree bags not only for the Arbor Day trees and other trees that the city and Parks and Rec purchases to plant around town, but also for all of the trees purchased through the tree program for beautification by citizens for this year and next year. So kind of we have to go back and give them to those who got trees last week, right? But then for next year we would have bags available to give to them as well. And then work towards providing some information, just sort of like 5 basic tips on making sure you're planting well, when and how to prune, and when to water, right? Like things that most people probably know, but are good reminders when receiving trees. So that's the purpose of the grant. As a tree board, we were excited about this idea, and were very excited when the Conservation District approved it. The money, my understanding, and Kim can answer more detailed questions on this than me, I think, would come out of the Community Forestry Fund, and then it would be reimbursed by the County Conservation District after that. There is a monitoring and report component to this, which should be relatively easy. It's a matter of, did the project get accomplished and was it successful? And I think the easiest metrics to use are phone calls or drive-bys to determine whether or not A, the bags are being used, and B, whether or not the trees are still alive in a year. So,
Is there a match to this? The city?
it was a 20% match in kind, so the time that...
So it's in kind.
Right, the time that we spend as tree board administering the program, developing the educational materials, et cetera.
And when will these little water bags be available, or when would they be available?
I suppose it would depend on when we ordered them.
Okay.
And whether we wanted to order a smaller batch right now, or ASAP, in order to provide the trees that were just handed out last week versus ordering a larger batch, for going into next year. So I guess it would just depend on how quickly we could get that done.
And if somebody wanted one of these, how would they go about that?
So the intention of the grant was to provide them to people who have purchased trees through the city's program. So it was our intention to reach out to those who ordered trees and let them know that the bags were available. I'm not 100% sure, but my guess would be it could either be a delivery. I mean, that's something I would be happy to spend a Saturday doing, or I'm sure that there was a location in town they could come pick them up from.
So contact the Recreation Department or something like that, would that be, or how would they,
Or the tree board.
if somebody has, hey, I want one of these bags, who do they call?
Yeah.
You gotta call.
We could do it, I could take phone calls with the restaurant.
Or city?
Joe Bull, Citizen, did they like it?
All the time.
Okay.
And it would be, I think, relatively easy to kind of have a list of expected people who might come by to ask for one.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, is there introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce with a motion to pass.
Mr. Lynch with a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Sellers seconding? Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Just so you know, the grant itself is not to exceed $4,500.
Yeah. I did read that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yep. I think this is an excellent idea, but, you mentioned the first year use, and as I drive around, there's some trees that's been in the ground 5-6 years. We went through that real drought time, and it seems like some of our trees never snap back. is there anything we can do after that first year to help these trees survive during these drought years, so we're not wasting our money 3 and 4 years down the road? Knowing full well, I love this grant, it's a great idea.
So I think there's a bigger answer to that, right? That goes above and beyond a $5,000 grant or $4,500 grant than this. And it's twofold, and I think the first one is education, right? And that's what the tree board is here to do. And hopefully these bags help kind of turn that light bulb on for just a few more people, just like every Arbor Day event does. We've already discussed, going into next year, what's sort of the next step we can take. Can we do this grant again? Can we look for other grants? The USDA and the Forest Service have in the past provided, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for urban and community forestry grants. And so I think if we can find the right opportunities, we can do a lot. Trees that have succumbed to or are severely stressed by prolonged drought or sort of mismanagement, perhaps, right? Improper pruning, topping, volcano mulching, et cetera. Depending on species and their severity of that, could certainly be saved, but that's gonna, I think, first and foremost, come back to education of those who are tasked with the care of those trees. I see a lot of trees in town that could use some help, right? But money is not limitless. It doesn't actually grow on trees. And so it's a matter of identifying, first and foremost, hazards, providing education, and then moving on from there. And I don't know that I can provide you with more specifics than that.
Some of these that I'm referring to are on city property too.
Right.
Like if you drive down 6th Street, the ones in front of the ball fields next to the youth center and stuff, they're struggling.
And I think that there are ways to, and we've talked about this as a tree board, and I'm not putting words in the tree board's mouth. This is me as a citizen's opinion, right? There are ways to do things today that are lower cost, where the barrier to entry is slightly lower, like plant replacements, so that as time, money, and necessity makes it so that those other trees can be pruned or removed, you already have established, water-bagged, and well-maintained trees ready to replace them, right? So, and sometimes that's the best you can do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further discussion? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any
Thank you.
opposed? Thank you. Resolution 2436. Mr. Harris, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Resolution 2436 is a resolution authorizing the City of Evanston, Wyoming to enter into an operating agreement with the Evanston Parks and Recreation District for the operation, management, and regulation of recreation within the City of Evanston for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, Kim Larson, Evanston Parks and Rec. We're having our 40th anniversary this year. We're having a big celebration in September. And I imagine, I don't know the exact history, but that this agreement and operating agreement has been going on for at least that long. So the only change that was made to this agreement from previous years is we took out items that dealt with the bus maintenance and the bus use, because we no longer have those buses anymore. So otherwise, same as usual. I like to refer to page 11. I think that's a lot of people don't realize page 11 and 12 on Exhibit A is everything that Parks and Rec take care of. So any questions?
I have none. Anybody else?
Just love parks.
A lot of green space here.
Grass.
Is there introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce the motion to pass, Your Honor.
Mr. Welling, is there a second?
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Perk seconding. Discussion.
I think you're doing a great job,
Oh, thank you very much. Well,
and the whole group. So.
yeah, it's a great team, and thank you for not only financial support, but my first year. These guys, like all department heads, and you guys have been wonderful.
That's good.
So thank you.
Excellent. Further discussion? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That is approved. Thank you, Kim. Resolution 2437. Mr. Harris, read that title for us, please.
Mr. Mayor, Resolution 24-37 is a resolution of the City of Evanston, Wyoming, authorizing the execution of a contract for services with the Uintah County Industrial Development Commission, UCIDC.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Welling, come on up. If you're new to town, please introduce yourself to the community.
Gary Welling, 1301 Summit Street, in Evanston, Wyoming. I'm the Uintah County Economic Development Director. It's one of my titles. You want me to explain what we are after? So
In a nutshell, if you want to, I think
we've had this group, this commission was established many, many years ago called the Uintah County Economic Development Commission. It was designed to represent the whole county and give an opportunity for the cities, City of Evanston, City of Bear River, Town of Lyman, Town of Mountain View to have representation on this commission. We've used this commission to promote economic development activities throughout the county. One of the problems that we have is we're not funded in any way. The county does provide me as an employee, part-time for this commission. It's a volunteer commission appointed by the cities. We have sponsored a few grants throughout the years, market study program, the 1,000-acre development plan. We've helped sponsor Jumpstart, Impact 307. We've done a lot of activities trying to promote growth in the community. One of the things that we do as a commission is go through an analysis or a strategic planning. And out of that strategic plan this last year, one of the problems that we've faced is funding. And so one of the avenues that we thought we would approach is each of the cities approach them as they have representation in this board is to ask for their support financially a little bit to help with some of these activities that we sponsor, for match money on grants, for help with promotion of the county as a whole. And so that's Rocco O'Neill's been a vital part of our commission. We meet once a month with meetings, public meetings at 3 p.m. on every fourth Wednesday. Everybody's invited to those. But we saw that our bank account, we have it was a small donation given to the Economic Development Commission probably 15 years ago. I think it was given to us by the racetrack people to promote economic development, and that's slowly going down with no avenue of really recapturing those monies. And so this is just a way of trying to ask for help with funding of this commission.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Trudy, and I assume this is in Rocco's budget. You planned for that, I'm sure. Is there an introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce it with a motion to pass.
Mr. Perks with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Welling seconding. Any discussion?
I think the group does a lot of good. They've done a lot with very little. And I'd hate to see it disband, so a little bit of help wouldn't hurt.
I have a question.
Please.
I just need some clarification. So, I don't have how much are we talking?
$10,000.
10,000. Okay, so I'm, bear with me here,
Sure.
I'm a little confused.
Sure.
So,
Do I need my calculator? Maybe.
why is the county Economic Development Commission asking when our pay for it ourselves, and how does this work as conflict of interest in statute 913-104? Because I know this has been going on a long time, and we've been rewarding money to you for a long time, or partially. But I'm confused procedurally. I guess this would be a question for Mark, how this all works. The why of the county coming to the city asking for money when we have to come up with our own money for our own economic. And the other thing is, if we're going to go ahead and give 10,000, there's just due to the nature of the personal liaisons between the three, how does that work?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure I understand the question.
I don't know that he thinks there's a conflict to me voting.
Oh, with me and my brother, I don't like him very much. Does that help?
Well, there's a statute that's been brought up, you can't give, the city can't give money to a direct relative, and then...
But it's not going to him directly, it's going to the county.
Isn't there a relationship between you and he as well? I'm just looking for procedure clarity.
Mr. Mayor, please. Let me back up. This agreement that you see attached and the resolution was brought to me by Mr. O'Neill, the Director of Community Development Facilities. The agreement is not with the Uintah County Economic Development Commission. It's with the Uintah County Industrial Development Commission. The UCIDC is a private nonprofit organization which has been, according to the Secretary of State, in existence for over 40 years, and I'm thinking closer to 50, that it was created. It's a nonprofit 501c3 for the purposes of obtaining tax-free gifts from private corporations who can then get a tax benefit by making a donation to the UCIDC. The agreement is between the City of Evanston and the nonprofit. When Mr. O'Neill asked me about this, he took me into a room, in the conference room. There was a meeting with he, Commissioner Hatch, and I believe a member of the UCIDC, Mr. Wheeler, who's sitting in the audience tonight. Now, Mr. O'Neill's not here, but he presented this idea, and I was sitting at the table, and I turned to Commissioner Hatch, and I said, will the county be approached for or some funding or like funding? And he said yes. So I don't quite understand the 913, the Ethics Act implication. The UCIDC is a separate nonprofit corporation. This agreement is between the City of Evanston and the UCIDC. The UCIDC is not Mr. Gary Welling. The City of Evanston is not Mr. David Welling. And the fact that Mr. Gary Welling is the mayor's supervisor in the county is not a violation of the Ethics Act, because they're not personal parties. So I don't know what
I appreciate that. I fail to see the connection as well. And quite honestly, Mr. Welling is here to present this resolution simply because Mr. O'Neill has not.
Absolutely. This should be Rocco.
And just because we have Uintah County at the front of this shouldn't mean it's a county program.
Right.
It's like Uintah County School District number 1 doesn't mean it's a countywide school district. So I think in the name sometimes it implies one thing when it's really not.
Sure. So, and I get that.
So are you approaching Lyman Mountain View? And
we will be approaching Lyman Mountain View down the Bear River.
And I'm assuming
and
their
the
portion you're asking for would be commensurate to kind of population?
Population, yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Jumpstart 307 is one of the best programs I've seen around. I love it, and I love what you guys do with that.
They do a good job, and we support that. The UCIDC.
That program alone, I think we get that much dollar value added for our community.
Yep.
Further discussion?
Other questions?
No, I just wanted I had those questions posed to me, and I wanted to ask and clarify, because it's not,
Sure.
in a small community,
It's tough.
it is very hard to separate and distinguish.
Sure.
And when it's business connections, family connections, and I've come to find out you guys have more family members than,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a little difficult.
most
So-
come to the reunions.
Don't throw a rock.
I am
Can't swing a
very,
dead cat with
I
a
am
hook,
very
Noel.
big on equal treatment for all, and very big on procedure. And so
Absolutely.
want to make sure that things are being done and
Absolutely.
said on the record and
If that-
verified by the city attorney.
Perfect. If one thing's clear, it hopefully makes it, none of this money is used for salaries of any kind. There's no monetary benefit from, it's a job, and it's been asked of me to be the director, so it's,
This statute I'm very familiar with, and it's very clear about exchanging, us giving money to anybody having a direct relation or a benefit, and it doesn't
Sure.
say personal benefit, it is benefit.
Sure.
And so there is that gray zone. But if
Sure.
Mr. Harris thinks that this is, we shouldn't approach this a different way, I think this program is great.
perfect.
Not that, I just want to make sure that it's being approached procedurally the right way.
Very, very well said. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That is approved.
Thank you. I'll let Rocco know.
Resolution 2438, Mr. Harris, read that title for us, please.
Mr. Mayor, Resolution 24-38, a resolution of the governing body of the city of Evanston, Wyoming, amending Budget Resolution 23-49 for the fiscal year 2023-24 by increasing cemetery operating expenses, golf fund capital expenses, and water fund capital expenses. Mr. Mayor, as you know, this is the resolution that goes with the first public hearing we conducted, and I think if you remember, Treasurer Lim mentioned that the cemetery is not an increase in cemetery operating expenses. What's the language?
It's the fund equity.
It's cemetery fund equity. So where it says operating expenses, the proposed resolution would need to be amended to provide for cemetery operating, or cemetery fund equity in the title and in the body of the resolution.
Okay. And we can move forward with that and with
Yes.
that change.
I would suggest you amend this because it's already before the body. I mean, it's
Okay.
before the body. So you need a motion to amend and then consider the resolution itself.
Okay. So is there a motion to make the amendment relative to what Mr. Harris just said?
I'll make that.
May help me with the wording of that, maybe, Mr. Harris, if you will, or maybe help somebody make the amendment and the wording that will do the job.
It would be a motion to amend the resolution from cemetery fund operating expenses to cemetery fund equity.
Fund equity. I'll make that motion.
That motion, Mr.
I'll
Second it.
We got a motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mr. Perks. On the amendment, is any discussion on the amendment? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? So that amendment is approved. So now we can consider the resolution, correct? 2438, Ms. Lim.
We just did.
Anything else to add? Is there an introduction on this resolution as it's been amended?
I'll introduce with the motion to pass.
Mr. Sellers with the motion to pass. Is there a second? Mr. Lynch? Any discussion?
Thank you for the clarification.
If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's approved. Thank you for your help on that, Mr. Harris and Ms. Lim, both. Resolution 2439. Mr. Harris, you read that title for us, please.
Resolution 24-39, a resolution of the city of Evanston, Wyoming, providing income necessary to finance the budget and provide for an authorized annual appropriation of funds for the fiscal year June 30, 2025.
Okay. This is relative to our second public hearing. earlier. Is there introduction on this resolution?
I'll introduce the motion to pass, Your Honor.
Mr. Welling with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sellers seconding. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That is approved. Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work. Comments from departments. Ms. Lim, you're still standing. Anything? Good to have the budget behind you. I appreciate the hard work, and I appreciate the frugality of our departments and our department heads. I know that is a process or a responsibility that they all take seriously, and I appreciate that as well, and as I do. I look at the expenditure of city funds as being a very serious matter for our community. We are lucky as a community. I think we are fairly well funded, and I think we've got some good resources that we respect and take care of, and quite honestly, that's due in large part to our forebears who went on before us and who made decisions, and mayors and city councils that have gone on for long. I think we owe them a gratitude for the relative health that we enjoy now as a community. So thank you. Ms. Larson, do you have anything for us? No? Mr. Robinson? No, sir. Mr. Newsom? Chief?
No, sir.
Mr. Jacobson, you've got anything more for us? Ms. Harris?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris?
Mr. Mayor, a couple of things. The first relates to Ms. Larson's, when she had the discussion about the Evanston Parks and Recreation District. I think the council is aware that there were some discussions with UNT County School District number 1.
Oh, yes.
Relating to the UNT County School District number 1's, like they have it has an operating agreement with the Parks and Rec District, just like the city does. They're different, but they do have an operating agreement. There were discussions, you remember, at a work session about the 1 mil levy. Those are ongoing, and the school district had proposed mostly were in agreement with what the city had proposed, but there were some discussions about board appointments and how many are made by the city, how many are made by the school district. So that information and those discussions are ongoing. Okay. We will continue, but it looks like at this point in time that the city will be receiving that full 1 mil for fiscal year 25.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, that's at least 313,000.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you.
That, and then the second thing is, just real quickly, the cemetery fund equity that we were talking about, in discussion with the treasurer, the cemetery really struggles with revenues because I don't think, we sell plots, lots, and out of that comes the perpetual care of those lots. I think the treasurer told me today we haven't changed that sale price for years.
I think that's true.
And I think the other revenue we get from opening and closing, right, Trudy? And so I think just in the future, when we get through the budget and get going, we may want to have a discussion, look at what we can do to try to make that more solvent. Because our only option is to close the cemetery.
Or would that include a district?
Would that be better?
What's that?
If it became a district, would that be better?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lynch, I talked with the treasurer about that. There are special districts like the Fort Bridger Water District. There are special districts you can create for cemeteries. Lincoln County has a North Lincoln Special Cemetery District and a South Lincoln Special Cemetery District, and that's what they're called. The good thing about them is, if you consider it good, is that they have the ability to levy up to 3 mills on property in the district for capital operation and maintenance. Now we know if 1 mill was, this year we're 300,000 for the boundaries of UNT County School District 1, if that district boundary were used for a cemetery district boundary, you would have that ability to have almost $1 million.
And that would be voter approved, right?
Pardon?
Would that have to be voter approved?
It has to be approved by the county commissioners.
Okay.
And of the landowners within the district. Okay, so you set up the proposed district boundaries, and then if so many object, they either need to be taken out of the district or they can defeat the approval. So that's a possibility.
Would that funding go to all the cemeteries?
Yes, in wherever, what's in your district.
Almy Cemetery would get some funds for
Correct.
Fort Bridger.
State Hospital.
Yes.
That's a dedicated.
We looked at it years ago, like 15 years ago.
Then it died. Yeah, I don't know why, but it did.
It was a lot of work to get it.
But it's in my prior life, I did represent the South Lincoln Cemetery District. There's a cemetery up in Big Piney, LaBarge area, and there's one in Kemmer, and there's one in Diamondville, and there's actually one along Highway 89, right by the
Cumberland.
the Cumberland Cutoff Road. That all of those are taken care of by the South Lincoln Cemetery District. So just something to think about.
Makes good sense.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, revive that.
Public participation. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council for any reason? Please, Ken.
I'm proud to say that my father, in his 70s, rode in one of the first Pony Express reruns on my horse. And he was the oldest person to ride.
Was he? How long ago did that happen?
Here in Evanston, they came to us.
What year did that occur?
Pardon?
What year did that occur?
I think it was 1960, but I'd have to look it up to be absolutely sure.
I think that's about what it was, yeah.
Excellent.
I was reading on that.
Fun. Well done. Thank you.
You know, Mr. Mayor, former employee Bob Lichty
Yes.
was very much involved in the Pony Express.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Officer Card was too, wasn't she?
Who?
I believe she had something to do with it, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Becky.
Oh,
Will Atkinson, there's a few.
Ron Atkinson. Ron did that a couple of times.
His daughter and granddaughter riding at one year, so they had 3 generations.
Anyone else? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you. All righty then.